I'm dead. It's the only thing that makes sense. And you know what? Good. You will not hear me complain about it. No, ma'am, Pam. At this very moment, fuck the living. Death is where it's at. Let me preface this with, I mean that in the least suicidal way possible. Like, I didn't seek out my own death. It just kind of happened. You know, I embraced it in a very modern, everyone under the age of 40 suffers from existential dread kind of way. Now, I have no proof that I'm dead, but I'm pretty sure I'm surrounded by nothingness and exist in a void of black. Like, as far as the eye can see is nothing. Well, I suppose I could be blind. But no! I'm dead. I have to be. Anything less would be very boring. But hey, my brain still works, so that must mean there is an afterlife. I think. Okay, let's go all Hollywood on you and tell you how I got here. It's quite a story. A boring one, but it's a story nonetheless. My dad died. The end. Not really, but he did die. He died and it completely wrecked me. I would go as far as to say that it broke me. The days between his death and his burial felt like an eternity. The thought that once I closed that casket and lowered him into the ground, I would never see him again. I couldn't stand it. Since I was 6, it had just been the two of us. My mother died in a car accident when I was young, but I don't remember her much. You only really start to have any memories around 2 or 3, so our time together was quite short. Yes, at the time she was literally 50% of my world, but as each day went by, the percentage became smaller and smaller. Before I knew it, she simply felt like a stranger who I just knew as a child. Damn, that's depressing. So, just my dad and me. That was my entire existence. Of course, we still had extended family, grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins, and the whole big family vibe. But that eventually fell to the side as well, which is also depressing. And this is where we're starting to get a bit cliche if you ask me. I'm gay. I bet you didn't see that coming. I'm a gay man living in modern day America. You can't get more cliche than that, can you? Well, I guess a gun, American flag, and a Bud Light would be more cliche, but I digress. After coming out as gay, we ran into a lot of rocky times. My dad accepted me from day one and never once questioned it. I mean, I'm pretty sure he knew already, so that made it all easier. But my super conservative Baptist and Lutheran family members weren't so kind. So in the American way, they abandoned me. Well, my father said, "Fuck you," and took me away to Massachusetts to grow up in a much more accepting environment. My family decided they were all going to show up at the end of his fight against cancer. Not at the beginning or during, only at the end. They have to appear like they're the dutiful and loving family to the outside world unless they couldn't claim to be all about family. So, as they all stood around his grave, sobbing and pretending as though he meant something to them, I lost it. I took the flowers I was holding, threw them on his casket as he began to be lowered, and ran off. I couldn't stand for them to pretend like they actually cared. If they cared, they would have supported me and loved me no matter what. They would have immediately flown to Boston to be by his side during his treatment. They would have taken him in so he didn't have to continue to work while he was sick, but they didn't. They waited until he was steps away from the grave to come crawling back and praying for the saving of his soul. So yeah, death seems pretty good. Like any good dramatic story, I ran. I continued running until I reached the main street of whatever small Massachusetts town we were in. Honestly, most of them looked the same, and I don't remember where he was being buried. I had more pressing things on my mind than the name of some town that's been here 300 years. As I leaned against a light post, heaving and fighting the urge to vomit, I stared up at a bookstore in front of me, established in 1642. Wow, that's old. I pushed myself off and stumbled into the door and was immediately greeted by a bell. My eyes dart around the store and don't immediately see anyone working, so I begin strolling through the store. It's clear that the building and even the shelves are all quite old. Perhaps they even date back to when the bookstore was established. It's strange to think that something that was established in 1642 is still standing. My own father couldn't even make it half a century, and this one is encroaching upon 3 centuries and still going strong. Well, I don't see any customers. I'm not entirely how strong it's going. I run my fingers across the books as I slowly walk through and make my way to the fantasy section. Between the loss of my mother and my family, I fell deeply into fantasy. That and astronomy became my 2 biggest passions, anything to escape this reality. Spoilers! It worked. Remember, the whole dead thing? One book is sticking out more than the rest, and my hand doesn't glide over it so smoothly. City of Tabathia. Never heard of it. I pull the book from the shelf and begin thumbing through the pages when something falls out of the book. I bend down to pick it up. It's the magician card from a tarot deck. The artwork on the card is quite exquisite. A muscular man, naked in a golden embroidered cloak, stands in front of a most magnificent city I have ever laid eyes upon. The detail in the art is far beyond any tarot card I have ever seen. It's clear that it was a painting, but it almost feels like a photograph. As I move to place the card back into the book, the ground begins to shake. I stumble backwards into the shelf behind me as the entire building starts to violently rattle. The books come tumbling down, and one after the other, they begin to pile up. I try to stand, but they continually knock me down again until the solid wooden shelf comes tumbling down with them and on top of me. R.I.P. me. That's how I died. Cursed to death by a bookshelf from 1642 in some unknown town in Massachusetts, while holding the picture of a naked man. Sounds like the start to a cheesy erotic thriller. Gross. So here I exist in a void, nothing as far as the eye can see. Or hear. Or touch. Or taste, I assume, as well. Like, I didn't even notice any air or movement. I figured the afterlife would be more exciting, but it's just nothing. Ugh, this is going to be a long eternity. Just as I begin to settle into forever, I start to feel a soft breeze. Slowly from my feet, warm air begins to rise and wash over my entire body. Honestly, it feels quite nice. It's relaxing even. Though that doesn't last for very long as the gentle breeze turns into a very hot gale. Heavy wind is thrashing about in every direction, but mostly feels as though it's coming from below. The familiar feeling of falling starts to take over my body, and I feel as though I'm dreaming and I'm about to come crashing down right before I wake up. I lower my head and notice light coming from beneath me from a great distance. It's nothing more than a pinhole, but as the sounds tick by, it grows larger and larger until, holy shit, I'm in the middle of the sky and I'm falling towards the ground. Like a meteor, I am plummeting at rapid speed towards the ground with nothing to save me. No parachute, no water, no soft surface, nothing. In several moments, I will go splat on the ground and officially be dead. I apparently wasn't dead before, and I'm about to be now. I close my eyes and hold my breath, and bam, boom. What sounds like an explosion surrounds in all directions. I stand there for a second wondering if I was really dead this time. I slowly open one eye and then the other to see myself standing in a giant crater with me in the center. "Don't move, you're under arrest," I hear a shout from above. I raise my gaze to meet the voice only to see soldiers clad in armor and holding swords towards me completely surrounding the crater. Holy shit, I'm not dead. I've been isekai'd.